Episode 6 of Beauty in Black begins with Mallory heading into work. The cancer protests are picking up, and Mallory wants all the protesters taken care of, by any means necessary. She has her sights set on killing Lena Walton, the attorney whom we saw in episode 1 serve her the lawsuit. Jules reminds Mallory that things are heating up for the family too, and brings up that Ina has been taken care of. Mallory contemplates whether to have Lena be dealt with the same way. Meanwhile, Kimmy is completely nonchalant when Yolanda returns and burns Angel's car outside. She doesn't even move as she points out how sad she is about Rain. Angel also brings up he was approached for implants, specifically for his penis, but he refused. Now, Kimmy knows these implanters are bad news and wonders if they're connected to the Bellari family. Kimmy blames herself for Rain's death and tries to come to terms with it, while Angel remains dead set on stealing from Horace. Meanwhile, Norman is adamant about moving Ina to another hospital. There's a disagreement between the nurses, and while this process is ongoing, Mallory shows to see Norman at the hospital. She claims she has no idea who did this and promises that Roy would never have left Ina in this state. He's exasperated and Mallory uses this opportunity to shift the blame onto Charles. Either that or potentially someone who held a grudge against him. Meanwhile, Roy meets with Lena outside the Beauty in Black HQ. She butters him up after serving him the lawsuit and points out that they go way back. Lena wants Roy to work it out with her in private, away from Mallory. When Roy heads inside the building, he finds Jillian in Mallory's office. She wants to do whatever he wants, and promises that this is all her and not actually Mallory manipulating him. Roy doesn't fall for Jillian's ruse and continues to mull over Lena's words instead. He's seriously contemplating meeting her. Kimmy receives a call from her sister, Sylvie. Things aren't great back home, given Frank is overbearing. Sylvie is clinging to the hope of leaving and heading to Chicago to be with her sister, where Kimmy spun a big story about her being successful and letting them work in unison. Kimmy opens up about her family life to Angel and he urges her to go ahead with this plan to steal from Horace. After taking the money, they can then go and pick up Sylvie and leave. Speaking of working together, Roy and Mallory obviously don't get on, but the only reason they're still together is simply because of the shares involved in this. That's it, there's no special reason beyond this. Jules warns Roy that physically forcing the protesters off the streets isn't going to help the situation. It could go national. Roy contemplates meeting with Lena and handling this, but Jules thinks Mallory or Horace should be the ones to sort this out. Jules immediately speaks to Mallory about Roy's plan and they try to come up with a solution to this. At the same time, Norman receives bad news en route to the next hospital when Ina passes away. So Norman literally shoots all the EMTs and leaves. So Beauty in Black has properly gone off the rails. The first few episodes were actually pretty good as a foundation to some big soapy drama, and while we do get the set pieces here, it's done in a way that feels completely unrealistic and over the top. Characters are acting, well, out of character to what we've known and grown accustomed to early on. Roy, easily influenced by a woman buttering him up, doesn't quite work with his image of being a womanizer who knows how to woo women. Meanwhile, we have Jules seesawing between Mallory and Roy, exuding exposition over things we already know and have seen already. But then we have the situation involving Kimmy and Angel, who basically spend the whole episode moping about. This really does feel like a switch and bait in many ways, shifting the focus across to this unlikable family rather than Kimmy trying to make a better life for herself. Unfortunately, this show doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon.